What's up everybody, this is Joe Bisping, and in this video we're going to talk about how to bid tree work. And these are tips and fundamental practices that I think you should keep in mind when you're out there trying to bid your tree work. So stay tuned, listen up, get ready to learn something, and I hope you enjoy the video. Here we go. Alright, so I wanted to make this video because I had a few requests to do it, and I hope that it helps you guys. And I hope you value what I'm doing here on my channel, and if you do, I ask that you please subscribe to my channel and share these videos so they get out there. I put a lot of work into these, and it takes a lot of time, but I truly do want to just help some people. So if you could support my channel by sharing it on Facebook, whatever social media outlet you have, liking the video and subscribing to my channel, I would really appreciate that. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Alright guys, I just want to start off by saying, look, I'm just your average Joe arborist, okay? I'm nothing special here. These are just fundamental principles that I have found doing tree work over the years, bidding work, okay? And specifically towards residential tree work. So just keep that in mind when you're watching these videos, and I really hope you learned something. Be specific about your bid. Write down the fine details so when you get to the job that there's no misunderstanding of what you have bid to come and do. Okay, so the homeowner should be able to look at your bid sheet and say, I know exactly what they're coming to do, and that way you can avoid any like, oh, I thought you were going to do this, or oh, maybe you should have done that. You know, so you can avoid those conflicts by being very specific on your bid sheet. Put an expiration date on your bid. That way, if you show up to bid a job and say it's a tree removal, and the tree's kind of dying, it's looking kind of rough, and you say you bid it to climb it, right? And you bid it a certain amount of money. Well, this way that the customer can't take that bid, hold on to it till next year because they put it off because they threw it on their desk and they forgot about it and they don't really care. The next year they call you and say, hey, can you come cut my tree down now? Well, now we're a year later, the tree's even more dead, more crispy, and you wouldn't necessarily climb it now, so you can't really do it for that price. So it's important to put at least a 30-day expiration date on that, so you have a chance to revise the bid and make sure there's no major defects to the tree or anything like that. As far as pricing goes, nobody can specifically tell you how much you need to charge to do your tree work, okay? Because it all depends on so many different factors. Your market, your skill set, the tools that you're using. So if you have a lot of heavy equipment, if you're using a lot of big equipment, you need to factor that in. If you're using employees, so many things can factor that in. To put a picture up online and say, how much would you guys choose, or how much would you guys charge to cut this tree, is pretty much pointless because it doesn't matter unless, you know, they're specifically in your market or like work for you, basically, you know, or it's you, because nobody can tell you how much to charge. It really depends on how you work. You know, there's a certain amount of money I'll charge to even just leave my house. I won't leave for less than a certain amount of money because I just won't be making money. You know, I'll leave and I'll literally be going at a loss. So there is a bottom line. You know, don't be afraid to tell somebody that over the phone. If somebody calls you up and says, oh, you know, can you come right now? Can you do this? You know, if you're super busy and if they say it's a semi-emergency job, you know, something to keep in mind is you can be fair and you can say, well, it's going to be at least this much for me to come. If you're fine with that, I mean, that's going to be the bottom line. It's going to go up from there. So just giving somebody an idea of how much it's going to cost can a lot of times avoid, you know, wasting your time going to do a bid. So the big question, how do you determine how much to charge? Well, I can't sit here and be like, well, you need to charge this. Okay, I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is how to come up with a price based on your environment. So things to keep in mind. The cost of your equipment that you're running, right? So if you're running a skid steer, you're running a big chipper, your trucks, cranes, all these things, you have to factor that in. How much does it cost me to take this out today to pull on my driveway? I have to think about how much that costs me. So I'm going to add that in there. We're going to start with that. Fuel, depending on the area. How much does fuel cost me? How much fuel am I going to use? Wear and tear on my gear. A lot of guys don't factor that in, but you got to replace this gear. Something breaks down, especially if you're using big equipment, you have to factor that in. You can't just factor in your paycheck. Okay? You have to factor in wear and tear on your gear, like ropes. If you're having a hard time buying a rope every year if you need to replace it, because you're using a lot, you're not charging enough. Okay, you got to charge enough to replace those things. These things wear out. There's a lifespan to all these things, and you have to replace them. Okay, and it shouldn't just be on you. Okay, the customer is asking you to come do work, use your tools, and that's part of that charge. Time. How much time it's going to take you. What kind of help you're going to have. So you have to factor in your employees, whatever the help is. You have to factor that in as well. You know, if somebody calls and says, hey, I just need this tree down, you know, you don't have to bring your chipper or anything. You know, the truth is, if you're an owner, and say you've taken loans out on your chipper, your skid steer, whatever the tools that you're using, if you have loans on them, the truth is you still have to make those payments. So yeah, you technically, you're not costing so much to go out and say just drop a tree, right? So say there's a job that's going to take you a half a day, even a day without your gear, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to cut my prices in half because I'm not using my equipment. Because the truth is, if you have payments, you still have to make those payments. And you still have insurance. Okay, so you can't really slash your prices too much. You can discount some, don't get me wrong, but you do have to realize, you know what? Hey, I can't do a week worth of like no cleanup jobs and cut my prices in half and then still have my payments at the end of the month. Okay, you have to think about this, and you say there is still a minimum that you're going to have to charge, even if it's an easier job. And if it's an easy job, maybe it's not for you, you know. But it's pretty rare that we even get called for jobs that are easy, you know. So if it's an easy job, don't be afraid to let it go, you know, because you still have to make money. It's not about just being like, I can walk to the woods and drop it. I mean, I'm just saying in general, not that you never have those. It's nice to have those sometimes, but you don't be afraid to let it go if you're not making money. And this next one's specifically important to me because I'm a climber, but I factor in risk, right? I know what I'd like to make a day, you know, with the equipment that I use, but then I also look at a tree and think, this tree's extra risky. You know, there's the risk reward here is a little bit, there's more risk than reward. So I have to charge for that. So I always add for that, you know, and I'm not afraid to not get that job, but I always add for risk as well. You know, when it comes to payment, and somebody asks you about payment, I would never take money for work that I haven't done yet. And here's why. I don't like to have to go work for what I already have. I don't like when I have the cookie in my hand to go out and have to work for it before I can eat it. I like to go work and then get the cookie and eat it. That's the way I like to do it. It gives me motivation to go out and do the job, okay? That's not to say if you're doing a long, big job, right? Sometimes I have a, 2-3 week worth of job for a single, owner or a single client. Sometimes I'll ask them to pay for what I've already done, and that's a fair thing to ask of customers. And most of the time, they're really happy to do that. So, but I would never just take money up front. I mean, if you're going to take money, there's only a few reasons why I would take money, and that would be because of rentals, right? So I've done jobs where I've rented a $3,500 crane before, and I would require that up front because I have to schedule that, and that's something where they're asking me to take that responsibility of the crane. I don't do that. I would require the money up front to reserve the crane for that and pay for that. So I would do that. If you want to take a small percentage up front, just to kind of get some commitment from the people, so they don't just back out on you later on. They tell you they're going to do the job, and then you're bidding more jobs, and you're saying, well, I'm out this far, which that could cost you some more jobs. And then if a customer backs out, now you're not really out that far on your schedule. So if you want to schedule, or if you want to take a little bit of money up front, just to keep, just so they don't want to just give up that job because they've already invested a little bit in it, you could probably do that. But I would never take more money than I could ever do the work, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to stray away from that. But that's just my opinion. So once you determine, how much time things, how much, it's going to cost you to take your gear out, you want to factor those in, basically boil it down to the day, right? So I know it's going to cost me this much per day to go out with my guys, my gear and stuff. And then you want to add in, obviously, what you want to profit from that. So you would add that, So that's really how you're going to determine how much it costs you. It's useless to look at somebody else's bid in the market because it really doesn't matter. Okay, what matters is how much you have to charge to make money doing what you're doing. Okay, that's really what matters. If you're not winning bids, you might have to change the way you're doing things. So just keep that in mind. It's important to charge enough to have time to do the job right. If you're rushing, you're not doing the job good, the customer is not satisfied, and you're not even making money. You're not making enough money to do it right. So it's important to do that. When you're bidding the tree work, remember that you're there to make money. You're not there to cut trees. I know there's a big pride in the tree industry, and guys really love to be able to look at a tree and say, I could do that. It's true, you probably can. Okay? But the point is, we're there to make money. Okay? That's the bottom line. You're there to cut trees after you make that. So don't be afraid to walk away from a job if a customer is unwilling to pay for it. Period. You just have to do that. In my opinion, I would say give a solid price and don't change it unless you absolutely have to. Okay, why would you have to change the price? Well, if there was something in the tree, maybe up high in the tree that you could have really no control over, something changed, something dramatic. I can think of one time that's happened to me. And I kind of ate the price a little bit, and we talked about it, and we kind of split the cost of dealing with the issue. But my opinion is don't change the price. Bid it for what it is. Don't give the runaround, and that way there's no misunderstanding. Another thing I would say is stay away from discounting and money off kind of deals. My opinion is just give the best price that you can to everybody and be fair with it, um, and just go with that route. If somebody says, "Well, can you do it for less, or can you take some money off?" Something that I would suggest that you would say is, "Well, there's things that you can do to reduce the cost, like do less work, right? So I can take off the raking off the bill because now we're being specific, right? So I'm charging for raking just so they could see that, hey, this takes time. You can pay me to do it, or you can get your teenager down the street to rake your yard after I'm done. You want to pay me to do it or not?" So say I put a $50 charge or a $100 charge for raking, for example, and say, okay, I can take that off. That would save you $100. I can take off wood removal. I can take off all the cleanup, and that would save you money if that's the route you want to go. But I would stray away from just taking money off the top because somebody asked you to. Remember, we're valuing ourselves. We're giving the price that we think is fair because we're there to make money. So just look for other avenues to reduce the cost other than just taking money out of your pocket. If you start doing low prices and you go out there and bid low, guess what those people are going to go do? They're going to tell all their friends about the low price that you gave them, and then their friends are going to call you, and their friends are going to call you. And then, once you do that tree work, next year they're going to call you again, and they're going to expect a low price. So keep that in mind. Keep your prices up, and don't be afraid to charge higher, even in the winter. Okay, don't drop your prices. If you're doing winter prices, people are going to expect that, and they're going to expect that later in the summer. So just keep your prices what they are. So when you're talking to customers, don't be wishy-washy, and don't be just shoot straight with people. They appreciate that. People can respect that when you're just straightforward with them, and you just tell them what it takes to do what you got to do. So you want to be the professional guy. You don't want to be the cheapest guy. Okay, as business people, you have to realize that there's a market of people who just want a professional come in to do their job, and there's a market of people who just want the cheapest guy, and they're going to do whatever it takes to save a penny, and they're going to be involved and be pretty critical with what you're doing. There's guys that will literally try to drag a piece of brush behind you to save $5, and then there's people who say, okay, I'll write you a check when you're done, just do a good job. Those are customers you want, okay? So one thing I hear people say a lot is, well, my market, there's just no money in my market, or there's, in this area, there's not a lot of money. Well, there's either one of two things that are happening there. One, you're either wrong, and you're just not in that group. So you've had customers who are low paying, those cheaper customers who kind of always want to save the penny and want to be a little bit more critical about the work and devalue what you do. Or there's usually a group of people in your area, a market of people who just value what you do, don't really want to go out and do the work. They just want to pay somebody to do it. You just need to get in with that market. Maybe you haven't tapped into that yet, and some of these principles can help you do that. You want to look professional when you're bidding work too. You don't want to look like you just kind of woke up, got out of bed, or came out of the bar. Okay, you want to look professional. You want to look like somebody who knows what they do and values themselves and values their property. One thing I like to do when I'm bidding work is to wear my safety gear. So I wear my chainsaw pants, I wear my chainsaw boots, I wear my high vis shirt, and I have safety glasses on. Because it just goes to show people I'm wearing about $1,000 worth of safety gear, so I value myself, so I'm going to value your property when I'm working on it. And so I might suggest doing that as well. When you're bidding tree work, the dumbest thing you can do is bid it from the window of your truck. Okay, get out, go look at the tree, walk around the other side of the tree. I can't tell you how many times I'm looking at a tree, right, and it looks kind of normal, right, and you're thinking, oh, I pretty much know what I'm in charge with. Then I walk around the other side of the tree and it is rotted out, or there's metal in there, there's concrete. It's just something crazy anomaly that, it's just would throw the whole thing off, right? But a lot of guys don't walk around the other side of that tree, and when they come to do the job, they're like, man, I didn't charge enough for this. So it's important to get out, look around the tree, take your time when you're bidding, okay? Don't be rushed. Try to factor in everything. Ask questions like, hey, is there septic under here? Are there lines under here? Is there electric, around here? What am I looking for? Look for hazards, okay? And factor those in. And don't underplay them, because they will come to bite you. Don't let customers pressure you into thinking that it's not that big of a job, because I see that all the time. Oh, it's not a big deal. You can just drop it. I get a phone call. Oh, yeah, I just need you to lay this tree down for me. Well, I get there, and it's like literally impossible to lay this tree down without doing damage to the property. It's just not possible, okay? And they want to play it off like it's not that big of a deal. And a lot of times, if you're not paying attention, if you kind of go with the emotion, you'll bid a tree and you're like, what did I just do? I mean, that's not, I can't do that, you know what I mean? So don't let a customer talk down the job, okay? or how hard or not it is. Okay, you're there to determine that. Take their information, but take it for what it is, and go out and do your job by evaluating and looking for those hazards that we've already talked about. And when you're bidding, you have to have value for yourself. You're a valuable person. Okay, your skill sets are valuable. This is an extremely dangerous job that requires a high level of skill and expertise to do what we do. So you should value yourself, so then in turn the customers can value you. So don't devalue yourself and don't let customers devalue you. Bid enough to buy the tools that you need to do the job, right? If I was a plumber, I'm going to charge enough to come and fix your pipes correctly, right? I want to be able to show up with a pipe wrench that I need to tighten the pipe, right? Take the pipe or whatever, If I show up and I'm trying to use my hand, it's ridiculous, because I'm not charging enough. But not only do I want to have the pipe wrench to do the pipe that I need, but I want to have the different size pipe wrenches that I need to do the job. So when you're bidding tree work, you need to make sure you charge enough to get the tools to do the job right, okay? This comes back to valuing what we do and the importance and the seriousness of tree work. So bid enough to make money to buy the tools that you need to do the job. Now there's always extra big toys and the different things you can save up to buy that really just help the job, like Tremex and skid steers and bigger things, bigger chippers. Those are things that are a little bit bigger scope. But I'm talking about the ropes, the pulleys, the blocks, the carabiners, all those things, that you need to have to do the job correctly. The communication set, right? If you're working with somebody, having a communication set, that's huge in this industry. If you're not using those, you really should, they make a big difference. So charge enough to cover those things. I mean, there's been times when somebody's asked me to do a specific job that I don't have a tool for, and I'm just honest. I said, I don't have this tool for it, but here's an option. I can get this tool. I'll have to charge you for it, but I'll be able to do this job for you if you want to go that route. And I've had customers buy the tools that I need to do the job before because it's really specific for their job. Not that I can't use that tool later on, but if you're just open with people, sometimes they'll do it, when you're talking to the customer, don't make stuff up. Okay, if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, whether it's tree ID, disease stuff, or whatever the question may be, just don't make it up and don't pretend like you know. Just be honest. People do not like BS. Okay, they don't like it. If you just say, I don't really know, and here's what I can do. I can research it, I can get back to you. That's what people value. That's what people want, honesty. They want to feel like they can trust you. I mean, you have to imagine, you're letting somebody on your property, right? Number one, you're letting somebody come into your property. And that's a big step for somebody already. I mean, we get to go in places most people don't get to go. Go to people's property to save value. Then you're going to let them do extreme work, right? Moving big equipment, big gear, cutting down big, heavy trees or trimming them over their highly valuable house, everything they've worked for. So you want to, what was I getting at? Oh, so you want to have an atmosphere of making them feel comfortable by not BSing with them and just being honest and open about everything and making them feel like, hey, I'm comfortable with this person. I know I'm not getting a runaround. I don't want to deal with just a sales guy. You know what I mean? I want to deal with somebody who actually does care and is willing to do the job right. And then afterwards, I'm just going to be so I'm not just going to be another number for them. Learn how to do quality work. If you're doing quality work, bidding jobs is going to be a lot easier and different because people are already going to have an idea. Your reputation is what's going to sell you your jobs, not how well you can speak to a customer, okay? A lot of my customers that I get now, they've already heard about me. They've already had my references. Word of mouth is everything. It wasn't a card that they saw on a board somewhere in the mall or whatever, in a store. It was what they've heard from my work, and that's big. And I know that's later on if you're just starting out, but doing good quality work, that's important, when it comes to winning jobs when you're bidding work. Another thing when it comes to pricing your work to keep in mind is that you're not going to work every single day unless you have a crew, okay? Which most likely if you're watching this video and you're starting off, you don't have a crew. So you're not going to work every day, and here's what I mean. You're going to work, right? And so you get 3 days of solid work, and then all of a sudden your chipper truck's full of chips. You need to fuel up everything. You got logs laying around. Gear needs greased up. I mean, you have maybe something broke. Okay, you have to factor in for maintenance days, right? So if I want to make, say I want to make $5,000 a week, okay, I have to understand that I'm not going to spend 5 days that week making money. I'm probably only going to get 3 to 4 days, and I'm going to have a day of doing maintenance, dealing with material, things like that, bidding jobs, right? Because if you're an owner, you have to go out and bid jobs. If you're doing the work and you're the owner, you have to factor that in. So you're not going to be working every single day. So keep that in mind when you're determining your price. Because you have to add, say if you thought I'm going to charge this amount per day, you want to add a little bit more because, hey, you're only getting so many days in a week as a business owner to actually work unless you have a crew. You know, when you're bidding tree work, be likable. You know, have some personality. Don't be afraid to joke around a little bit. You know, loosen up things. You know, sometimes it can be kind of a high tension, you know, thing for people, one, because they have to spend money on something they don't want to, or if it's an emergency job, you know, you want to loosen things up, make them feel comfortable, be confident in what you're doing, but be likable and be personable, and it makes them feel more comfortable about having you do their tree work. It's always best to go and be in front of the person to give them a price and do the bidding that way, because it gives you, instead of like, in my example would be, instead of showing up to a house, looking at the tree, and leaving the bid on the porch. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I do that all the time. But it's a better result if you actually get to meet the owner, talk to them, hand them the bid, go over it with them. It gives the homeowner a face to put with the bid, and that's important. And I see that I tend to win those bids more often than just dropping a bid on the porch. Never bid over the phone or the internet or over pictures, okay? Because there's always something that you can't see. If you want, if it's a farther, like I've had people call me that are like maybe an hour, 2 hours away, and they just want the trees down, so you don't really have to take your gear. I might give them a roundabout price and say, hey, it's going to be at least this much, but I'm going to come probably the day that I would work on it, and I'm going to tell you if it's going to be more. You know, if I see things like power lines, gas lines, all those things we're already talked about looking at, and giving them that option. And a lot of times you can kind of weed out some of those things rather than driving 2 hours to just give a bid. You know, when you're the owner and you're the worker, it's hard to do that, you know, so keep that in mind. All right, everybody, this is the end of this video. I hope it helped you. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Remember, I'm just your average Joe arborist, just like you. Okay, I'm just trying to help spread what I know. Not that necessarily it's the best, or just this gives you something to either build off of or add to what you're already doing. Stay tuned. I hope you like my channel because I got some cool things coming up here. I'm looking into the works, maybe some merchandise, right? Some cool t-shirts and stuff. Also, I'm giving away a pretty cool climbing device here in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for that video. All you have to do is watch the video and comment on it, and you can have a chance to win. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.